I was born into this family who was unrooted from their country, from their culture, and thrown into something completely different. What I see and what I've witnessed in families is that there are a lot of unresolved issues between family members that never get resolved. And they stay with them for years. It wasn't painful to see my parents divorce as much as it was painful to see them suffer.
How has this impacted you and your life?
I would say the biggest impact that the divorce had on me is probably my mistrust in love, mistrust in marriage, that marriages will not last. I thought I will never get married. Mostly life was just about surviving, making money, having success. The knowledge didn't come from wisdom, it came from the doctrine. It came from what do we want you to learn so that you become useful to us, not that you become empowered.
Namaskaram, Steven.
Namaskar.
Welcome to Skanda's Immortal Tribe. Thank you so much for being here and standing up for us so that we can share this knowledge with the youth of the society. Before the podcast begins, I usually like to start it with some kind of invocation or a mantra. So, would you like to share something with our audience?
Sure. Yeah. I told you before that there is a little bit of hesitance for me, not because I don't know any mantras or invocations, but more because it's such a subtle thing. It's not really obvious many times, at least in my life. I growing up in the West, there's no such concept as an invocation, and we even in school, like in India, this is something that my wife told me, and I will go into this the difference between how I grew up and how my wife grew up, and kind of the things that I got to know through her sharing and through us being together, like her being Indian and me being German. So yeah, but yeah, I can start with the very basic invocation which I learned when I lived at Sagir's ashram. We do this invocation before we do our spiritual practice, and it's something which it's dear to our heart. Asatu Sadguru Tamasuma Jyotirgamaya Shamaram Saranti.
That was really beautiful, and you spoke so fluently, the words and everything. So it didn't felt like I'm talking to a German. It felt like I'm talking to an Indian person.
Yeah, yeah, this it's something which is comes with practice, I would say, but I would also say that it has a lot to do because I grew up with two languages, which is my parents' native language, it's Serbian, which interestingly has a lot of Sanskrit words in it. Even the counting is there are certain similarities between Serbian and Sanskrit, and the languages that are in the region of Serbia, Croatia, Slovakia, these Balkan countries, they have a heavy influence in the culture as well, with the Indian culture. And as far as I understand, it is because one of the Saptarishis went to the mountains of Bulgaria, Romania, which from there it kind of spread to Eastern Europe. And I've even heard that part of the Vedas was written in those mountains. So there are a lot of similarities in the language, in the culture, in how people used to live. Of course, now it's different. But my wife has, when she visited my grandparents and when she saw the country, she saw a lot of similarities, even in like the traditional art, in the way that they would use natural fibers to make certain arts, to make maybe something for the table, or how they would use natural fibers to make pillow covers and things like that, the patterns that they use. There are a lot of similarities. Sometimes it would happen that my wife would say, "This is something could that I feel like I've already seen in India." So there are a lot of similarities, but a lot of it has been lost. So my journey from Germany to India was rediscovering those lost parts of my culture and of myself. Because growing up in a Christian family that was not really religious, not really deep into the religious aspect of life, they, because of moving away from their country, which was Serbia, which was at that time in war with Croatia and the surrounding countries, they were separating from each other. So it used to be one big country called Yugoslavia, which then split up into multiple countries. And the war led to people leaving the country, wanting safety. So that's why my parents left. And throughout this time living in Germany, they of course struggled with their own identity. Like, am I from here or there? Um, I kind of have lived half of my life in this country and half of my life in this country, but to this day, I still see something is calling them back, but some other part is keeping them there. So there is some kind of confusion happening because of leaving their their country, and religion never really gave them the support, the that faith in the larger energy which we call as God, or the universe, or Devi, Shiva. There are many names, and I believe that those names cannot describe what the truth is, because words are always only small aspects of of the actual truth. So my parents were truth seekers, and my father, even in his youth, stumbled across some Osho books, and he read some Osho books. And my mom also, she became vegetarian in a heavy meat-based family. Both my father's family and my mother's family were heavy meat eaters, but my mother just one day decided, I want to be a vegetarian. In the times when in the West this was very uncommon, very uncommon. My dad was like, "What are you going to eat?" Like, you know. So, like I said, the religion was not really giving them any kind of baseline. It was not really giving them any support. So they were trying to find the truth in their own way. And in that, I was born into this family who was kind of unrooted from their country, from their culture, and thrown into something completely different. Both of my parents didn't speak the language. My mother kind of started to learn, but I grew up with learning Serbian, and then only once I started going to kindergarten, which is like the before you go to school. It's very common in Germany to go to this kindergarten where you, from the age of 3, spend time with children and play and learn. So that's where I actually started learning German. And because I had both languages, Sanskrit came pretty easy. So usually people who are from Germany or from the US, they struggle a lot with pronouncing Sanskrit words because the kind of vocals that are in Sanskrit are very unique and you don't have them in, you don't know how to use your tongue. You don't know how to move your tongue to make those sounds. So because I grew up in this double double culture, double language, I picked up Sanskrit really easy. I At the ashram I used to love singing Nirvana Shatakam. So that was one of my favorite chants, and it took me to places definitely. And I didn't never really knew what it was. I to this day trying to understand the meaning of it. It never really it was not enough because the feeling that I had when I chanted it was not cannot be put into words. So trying to explain it, it's very difficult and it's very personal because there are many chants and many mantras, but there's only some that you really connect to in your heart, and yeah, that's the journey.
Nice. I think the mantra aspect that you mentioned, it's also related to how maybe the ancient yogis might have expressed what they have experienced. So if you have experienced something like that, and then it comes into words and into your being in the form of a music or a song or a chanting, then yeah, you get a new feeling out of that as well. So maybe it's
Yeah,
related to that.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You repeat those sounds, and the frequency of those sounds goes into your cells, and so you activate the memory of those of the lineage. Yeah,
Yes. And you mentioned about this connection that there were some Saptarishis who might have written
yeah,
certain Vedas here. Because I've been now connecting with the region here and also the nature, and I've experienced there are a lot of birch trees, right? And there are a lot of birch trees, and the Vedas were written on the bark of these birch trees. So I can totally understand this. This can be something which is relatable. And these are the trees which are also found in Himalayan regions as well, as they are found here. So a lot of fauna, like the nature, is also connected in some way.
yeah, yeah. There, everything is connected. I mean, in one way or the other, we are all part of the same source, right? Everything originated from one sound, one frequency, right? In the Bible, it says, first there was the word. So before anything, there was a word, and the word is sound, and sound is frequency. And even in the Hindu traditions, we look at the creation of sound, the creation as a sound, as the Om, right? The primordial sound that which came before everything else. So that sound, that moment in time when scientists call it the Big Bang, is when everything was created. And so somewhere we all have that connection. So yeah, it's the journey from Germany to India was for me just to reconnect with these parts of myself that I wasn't really aware of, that some were not really in my awareness, and nobody was there to show me. Nobody was there to teach me in Germany. Like I didn't come across anybody who was into this art, into the science of yoga, of, of mysticism. Mostly life was just about surviving, making money, having success, and whoever had the most success, whoever had most resources, they were the ones who were in charge, and they were the ones who were making the rules and choosing what we learn in our education system and everything. So the knowledge didn't come from wisdom; it came from a doctrine. It came from what do we want you to learn so that you become useful to us, not that you become empowered.
That's so true. It seems like the society, how it is shaped today, it is more about how we can serve the people who will be just consuming a lot of energy out of us rather than empowering us. So it's more like creating that framework where people just follow orders. So, how was your childhood related to your schooling that was done back then, and how you experienced that when you were a kid?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I was actually lucky, I would say, with the lucky or blessed, whatever you want to call it, because the school that I went to, the teacher that I had, she, when I was in second grade, she came and I changed teacher in my first grade and then in second grade, and then she came and she told my parents that she is observing certain patterns with me and I might have ADHD because I'm not able to pay attention and I'm not focusing and I'm distracting other students. So, but now here comes the reason why I said that she was a blessing is she did not tell my parents to take me to the doctor. She told them to make me play an instrument. So that instrument, which became the piano, was kind of what saved me. If I reflect back on the time that I spent in those first years going to school, the reason why I had ADHD is because I had a lot of energy. I had so much energy and I did not had a way to get that out. Soccer wasn't enough. That was the one thing which I did from the age of 3 until 18 is to play soccer, but that wasn't enough because the amount of energy that I had was so much that sitting in school was impossible, and keeping my mind focused on something that I didn't care about was also impossible. And the teacher was not able to make me care about it because oftentimes they didn't care about it themselves. And if they did care about it, they were overwhelmed with the amount of students because 25 students, let's say, or 20 students, taking care of each individual and trying to fit each of them, which every child is unique and they need to learn at their own speed. You cannot expect that one child will learn in the same speed in the same way as another. So having 20 children and trying to kind of go through this curriculum is very challenging, and I know that because my sister is a teacher and she cares about the children, but it's difficult. So that system that I was in, it just didn't suit me. But the saving part was the piano because the piano finally gave me something that I could commit to for a certain period of time that was enjoyable for me. It was something new. And I would say the music in general is something that is so important. And we completely forgot about it. Most of us are so ignorant to it because music is, I would say, the way for a child to start focusing in one direction, to focus your attention in one direction, but in a playful way. And sports is more for the body. It's more for, like, you do have some kind of like thinking where you have to anticipate where, let's say, the ball comes from, or maybe you have to anticipate the opponent and you have to strategize things. So it's more the right brain, I think, right? The masculine brain. I might be wrong here, might be the left brain, but it's basically the tactical thing, the that part of the brain. But the creative side of the brain, the left side of the brain, is not really utilized, it's not really trained. So music is one of the best ways to start to train that. And for children, it's amazing. So yeah, for me, music was saved my life. And the interesting thing is that Sadhguru's ashram, he also when so there's a school at the ashram, which is there are two schools, but the one school which is called Samskriti, Isha Samskriti. In the beginning, when the school was just started, Sadhguru saw that a lot of the children are not able to stand still, like they are like it just kind of like moving around all the time. They can't sit still, they can't stand still, and they're struggling with this specific aspect. And he introduced Sarigama Padanisa. So he says that the sound is one of the best ways to harmonize your body and your mind, and to kind of ground yourself, to calm yourself, to bring yourself into this moment, and to help a child uh, to stay calm, and to just be able to utilize that energy that they have into something that is harmonizing, because the sound that you make or the sound that you play, it's harmonizing you, it's relaxing your mind, it's changing your brain waves. So yeah, music saved me. And after that, I didn't really struggle, I would say, much. I didn't that was something that just helped me a lot in my school times. I was never an excellent student because, like I told you, I had I was interested in very specific things, and those things that I was not interested in, I was not the kind of student who wants to please his parents or teacher with good grades. So that was not important enough for me. Having good grades was not important enough. And I didn't have the frame also. I didn't understand why would it matter? Why is it so important to get good grades? Because if I looked around me, I didn't see neither my teacher nor the people who were adults to be so happy with having had such great grades and having a job. So I was seeing them being not so happy, and I was happy. So why do I need good grades if I am more happy than you are? That kind of didn't really make sense to me, and I dropped my college as well, because when I went to college, then at this time I was really starting to be more conscious, I would say, about this, and I looked at all the professors, and I found one who was actually interested in what he was teaching. And even in my schooling, in my high school, I had one teacher who cared about the students, really, really cared about them in a way where I shared my personal life with him and I asked him for advice. So out of, let's say, 20, 25 teachers, professors that I had, only one I connected to, and another one that I felt like, okay, he really loves what he's doing. Other than that, it was sometimes you get a glimpse where they might like a specific topic, but overall, you see them more stressed, more anxious about exactly what I've shared with you, trying to get all 20, 25 students to cooperate is not an easy thing. And you have the parents on your head as well, who all want their children to be great students and who will come to you and tell you how bad you're doing and that you're not a good teacher. And and so it's yeah, life as a teacher is not an easy thing. But yeah, teachers never inspired me.
Okay, so now if you want to like also add the framework of how your family life was back then when you were growing up and how your relationship was or how you saw the relationship between your own families and relatives.
Hmm. Oh, that's very, very heavy topic, I would say. Heavy because what I see and what I've witnessed in families is that there are a lot of unresolved issues between family members that never get resolved. And they stay with them for years. And oftentimes, those unresolved issues between family members, they are being passed down to the children because the parents tell the children that these people are good, these people are bad, this person is like this, that person is like that. And as a child, you don't really have that discerning mind. You don't really look at someone and think they're good or bad. Even if somebody does something bad to you today, on the same day you'll forgive them and you'll just play again, right? If you must have experienced this, that you told your friend, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I don't want to see you again. I hate you. And then 2 hours later, you're back playing. So we are very forgiving as children, but as adults, most adults, they stored so many emotions and traumas and memories that now they've become this like burden of memories, and they don't really realize that the children pick it up, and the children know and they can see and they can feel. And even burdens like thinking that you don't have enough money, even that can be a burden that the child feels. I've witnessed this as a child, like I mentioned to you. Like my father, he never received gifts as a child because his parents didn't have money to buy the gifts he wanted. So when he had children, he thought, okay, I will give my children all the gifts that I can. Whatever they wish for, I'll get it for them. And in that, he because gifts need money and money needs time, which equals more gifts, less time with spending with your father. So you surrender to the idea that, okay, I need to work more in order to have more money to buy my child more gifts or to get to take my child to Disneyland. And you forget that a child does not live in the future. It does not live thinking about Disneyland. It lives always in the present because that's how children operate. Only when we become adults we tend to live in the past or in the future. We kind of shift between the two. But as children, we don't really experience the past or the future in the same way. I at least that's how I experienced it. That we are much more present, and we don't carry things from the past, and we don't anticipate too much about the future. So yeah, that's something that I witnessed within the family, and I personally struggle to connect with a lot of family members because I felt that the connection that we had was not very deep. And with deep, I mean that just because you identify as my family member, that's one type of connection, right? Like I connect with you because you are part of my bloodline, right? That's like a DNA that is connected. And because out of that DNA, you have that belief, okay, you are part of me. But what I realized later is that connecting with someone is a choice that you have to make every day, every moment. It's not something that you can rely on just because you are their bloodline or just because you're part of the family doesn't mean that you will feel connected to them unless you put effort into making that connection happen. So I felt that adults were so busy with their own drama, with their own difficulties, with their own emotions that were weighing down that there was very little space for the children. And so the connection that develops is always mother, child, father, son, grandfather, daughter. It's not two humans connecting like friends. And friends, they, at least that's how I experience friendship, they nourish each other. And with father son, or mother daughter, or grandfather grandchildren, there's it's a different kind of connection that you have when you are just that, or when you actually become a friend with your child or become a friend with your partner. Because now it's not just about the heritage, DNA, and all that. It's human to human. Doesn't make any sense.
Yes, that's beautiful. It seems like because you also mentioned that your mother, who was like going into this vegetarianism, and then your father was also like working, and he was having his own emotions to deal with. So there was like in the society they didn't had this framework also to support people who are going through all these changes. So they are struggling with their own life, and then on top of that they have children and family life, so it's very difficult for them to connect with their own children as well. So it seems like there was this kind of disconnection that was built because the framework was not right.
Yeah, no, yeah, I personally, and I told this to my mother not long ago. I told her that I am your child. It's not that I'm not your child, but I've grown up, and I'm not that little boy anymore. So if you want to have a connection with me, we need to connect on a friendship basis because that mother-child connection has run out. Because I believe when a child turns 21, I think in the yogic culture, there are these different phases of your life, and I think 21 is when the child has completely cut the cord between the parents and itself. It's become a full-fledged individual. So I told this to her, and our relationship has changed because now we are talking about what am I interested in? What are you interested in? What are you doing right now? What's happening in your life? how are your relationships? How are these things? And we are not coming from a place of my mother trying to fix me or me trying to fix my mother, or we are not coming from a place of having expectations because she's my mother and I am her son. No, we are coming from that place, that frame of we are friends, we are supporting each other, we want each other to grow, and we are willing to let go of the idea of what we want them to become or what we want them to do because we trust that they are capable of making their own decision. I with my father when I was young, I felt like he is the protector, like he is the one who will protect me from everything. And he was also in some way until I turned maybe 16, he was kind of a role model for me. Uh, Even though that's the funny thing, he didn't had the job that I dreamed of. He didn't had the job that most people will think of as, wow, what an amazing job. He had a job that in India most people would say it's a lower class job, and in Germany there's not that we don't have these kind of labels. I would say here it's much more. But the yeah the he irrespective of the job and the money that he made, because as a child I didn't see any of that money. I didn't even know what it means to have money. I didn't give money any value or worth. I just wanted to see my parents happy and have fun. So yeah, that's I had a good relationship with my father until I turned like 17, 18, and I started to um, just be more rebellious, I would say. And that rebellious me was not because he made some strict rules, but because I saw him struggling in the marriage, struggling with my mother. I saw my parents fighting. I saw them like not really being at peace with each other. So yeah, so my father, he was a role model for me. At the same time, when I saw him struggling in the marriage, being loud, being angry, he also was pretty angry with me when I didn't do my homework in the way that he wanted me to do it, or when he saw me struggling with math. He kind of was always the one who was pretty angry, and I also became scared. Like I became scared of his anger. And the more he just struggled with the marriage, the more the anger became, the stronger the anger became, or maybe the more I paid attention to because I saw my mother also being struggling. And I think before that, I kind of just ignored it, or I thought, okay, if my mom is okay with him being like that, then okay, he's like that. What to do? Like I didn't know. But with time, when I saw my mom struggling and him also struggling, then I started to question him, and I started to feel like, okay, I have to become my own person. I cannot rely on my father being my role model. I cannot rely on my parents guiding me. I have to find my own way. And yeah, around 17, 18, I started working. I started understanding what it means to work and receive something, receive money in this case. And I started to understand to manage finances a little bit more, understand saving and spending and all that. And then, yeah, when my parents divorced, when I finished my high school, I think I was 18, around 18, 19. They divorced, and Yeah, that was kind of a split point because now I was living with my mother, with my sister and my mother, and my father was separate. So I would visit him, but I couldn't recognize him because seeing him alone, it was such a strange thing, you know, and it wasn't painful to see my parents divorced as much as it was painful to see them suffer. And it took 2 years at least to for them to establish some form of balance. And yeah, I mean, even today, I would say I have a deeper relationship with my mom, and that is because we built that friendship rather than just a mother son. While my father is more into keeping the roles the way they are, and he can be a friend. It's not like he can't, but I still experience him trying to fix me or trying to tell me what to do or trying to change how I am or just he wouldn't say it in that way if we would sit in front of him and I would tell this, he would say, "No, no, you're free, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to think about your father. It's okay, I'm fine." He always says this, like, just take care of your mother, your father, it's okay, you can forget him also. But that saying is like for me, it shows that he actually is he says this, but he doesn't mean it. So yeah, he still holds on to that a little boy who needs that push, needs that support, and yeah, that's where we sometimes where I just need to do my own thing and just move aside from that. Yeah.
So it seems like there was a lot of things going on while growing up, and then you experience this very unfortunate thing that you have to witness the divorce of your parents as well.
Mm.
So, how had has this impacted you and your life, seeing these struggles and these issues that your parents were going through, and how it impacted your own life?
I would say the biggest impact that the wars had on me is probably my mistrust in love, mistrust in marriage, that marriages will not last. Marriage, what's the point of being married when you will anyway divorce after 30 years, 40 years? And the thing is also that when my parents divorced, I looked at other parents and I thought, okay, what if my parents would have stayed together? And when I observed these other parents, I didn't see any marriage that I felt like this is worth fighting for. Every marriage that I saw around me was that the husband and wife were completely separate. Like everybody was doing their own thing. There was almost no string. Like the strings that were keeping them together were only the children, the house, the car, maybe. But in terms of their relationship, there was not much there. So I think that the wars kind of made me pay attention to what's happening in other marriages, and then I just lost the interest. I thought I would never get married. That's I would say that was the biggest shift, and I left my parents in, not even a year. I dropped out of college and I went to the US and I lived there for a year. So I just wanted some distance and some time. by myself. And that's where I stumbled across Saguru, and then everything changed. none of this, then none of this mattered anymore. The
So it
past and all.
Yes. So it seems like some impact was still there, but you were not able to handle it because you were not in tune with your emotions, it feels like. That's why you just wanted to find some solace. So as a teenager or a young person who wants to explore, you went to US, and then how was your life when you moved to US, and you shared about this that you are now also experiencing your life with Sadhguru's attention. So I want to know that as well.
Yeah, leaving Germany was part of it was because my parents got divorced, and I wouldn't say necessarily that them getting divorced was the problem. It was me not finding myself in that situation. Like, where am I? Am I with my father or with my mother? Am I with this part of family or that part? And where am I in society now? Now that my parents are divorced and all the friends of our family know about it, and whoever you meet, there are questions and this and that. So I didn't want to deal with it. So yeah, there were emotions which were not resolved because there was lack of communication between my parents and between my parents and me and my sister. That the whole communication was missing because they thought if we don't tell our children, they'll be fine, and it's the opposite. It's if you tell your children, then they can have a better understanding, and even if they don't understand you, you prepare them for what's happening. You prepare them for what's coming. But parents just think that children shouldn't be dealing with this, so don't tell them anything. And that's completely the wrong approach, in my opinion. And I would say that's what also kind of made me distance to want to have distance from my parents. So yeah, I ended up going to the US, and I lived there with a family as an au pair, which is taking care of a child. It's something that people in Europe do. I met a friend who did it, and she told me about it, and I thought that sounds cool to move to the US, live with the family in their home, to get paid and to take care of a child. And I love playing with children, and I thought that's cool. So I just went, and it was a great experience. I loved it from it was challenging, of course. I was not so good in English as I am now. I was struggling in many ways, but I was so just I really needed that. I really needed some time for myself, and I had a lot of time for myself there, and just finding more about what is it that I like, what is it that I enjoy, what is it that makes me me, and then later the question of who am I also came up. So yeah, but it's not like from day one I was born a spiritual person or something. I didn't go to the US and I was all I had no idea what yoga is, what meditation is. I was completely foreign to any of these ideas. Spirituality didn't play a role. I already thought the religion was not really my thing. I didn't feel so good in churches either. I didn't understand what they were saying. It didn't make much sense to me, and my parents were not so religious either. So yeah, I went to the US as like I wouldn't call myself an atheist, but I didn't really care. I was a materialistic person.
Yeah, I
Very
think you were your teenage life then, right? So
yeah, I was
before we
20.
the spirituality aspect, I want to understand how your teenage life was as well, because I want to know your experience, how your teenage life was in this society when you were here, and how
Um,
you observed the society around you back then.
yeah, well, I mean, most teenagers in Europe, Nowadays, it's probably even crazier with Tinder, dating apps, and all that. But back then, we already had Facebook, we had Snapchat, WhatsApp. So we were on social media, and I that's why I have these because I spend too much time in front of the screen, and I was gaming, not shooting games. My father never allowed me to play any violent games. He strictly, and I'm grateful for him for that. Um, so I'm yeah very grateful for that. So I played only sport games, but still I played till like during weekdays I was not allowed to play, but on weekends I played till 3 in the morning, and I would sleep until 11, sometimes till 1 p.m. And my whole rhythm was off, and I would struggle to wake up on Monday morning to go to school. But yeah, when I kind of moved into teenage, then of course in Germany drinking is allowed from the age of 16. So it was very normal that we as teenagers, 16 years old, we go to a club, and we are allowed to stay there until 10. And if we have a signature of our parents, until midnight. So a lot of the times, not even from the parents, but could be anybody who's above 18. They can give you a signature, and you just need to have like a copy of your parents' ID. And if you have it once, then you can use it forever. So we just went outside, group of boys, and we were drinking whatever we could get as teenagers. I mean, beer is mostly like legal from the age of 16, and then from the age of 18, you can drink whatever you want. So alcohol was the thing to numb yourself, to just forget about the, whatever is happening, the worries, the fears, and just overall not like I mentioned to you that I never felt like I knew what's my place and where I belong. I had a feeling that I don't really know how to belong, how to make myself feel that. So I just went into on weekends going out and drinking. That was just our thing. And then of course a lot of like once you start going to clubs, you meet a lot of girls, and it's you just have casual hangouts and casual girlfriends, and nobody really cares. Like later, later I got to know about Runanubanda, how everything a relationship, everyone that you get intimate with has a huge effect on not just your physical body, because biologically, um, touching someone else has a biological effect on your body and on your hormones and everything. But the Runanubanda is like the energy body, which gets influenced by every single person that you touch, and I brought a lot of chaos into my life by just casually being with girls, and luckily, I would say, or karmically, I still had that uh, I would say protection where I didn't go so deep into it like some of my friends did, and some of them really struggled, and they had very difficult times because of these casual relationships. But for me, it was there, but I still kept myself like sane. I didn't overdo it, I would say. But that was the thing, and then going to the gym, of course, because when you are so obsessed about the material world, you are obsessed about your body, and you want to look correct, you want to look strong, you want to appear like you're strong, even though there is no strength in your heart and no strength in your mind. The only strength that you have is your body. So the gym was the thing for most of us.
That's what I've observed here. It seems like the framework is you numb yourself using alcohol and other modes, other destructive modes. And the way alcohol is promoted and, utilized here in a very, it is advertised as something very good for your health, because society is they saying that even if you don't see it in the social media like that, but the society is telling you again and again that you have to drink. If you're not drinking, you're not normal. You have to drink, you have to drink. It's like, oh, then you're not my friend. You're something weird is going on with you if you're not drinking. Because the only way to express yourself, what I've seen here is the weekends where people are just using alcohol as a mode of letting loose and expressing themselves, but then they are getting addicted to alcohol as well. So it has like it's both, because there are not many communities where people can connect authentically and make good connections, and because of that we are having this kind of setup where it is being promoted by people that this is how you have to just let all your emotions numb and drink it out, do whatever you want for the weekend, and then go back to your normal.
Yeah, I we don't really question it, the alcohol part, and I agree with you. It was very normal. There was no, even I had a friend when I was 18, 17 years, just when about to finish high school. I had a friend. He used to go to the gym, like religiously twice a day. He was one of the few people who stayed away from alcohol because he was so much into the gym. He was a huge guy, and he then became a guy who would stand at the door of a club and protect, like, let people in and out and all. So he was, and then I think he did start drinking a bit. But overall, other than him, everybody else was drinking. Yeah, it's very normal. And I see that's the thing. I personally, I believe that alcohol has also been demonized because the root of alcohol, especially if you go into the Christian mythology, alcohol was used as a way to cleanse yourself, and it was used for specific therapies. It was used for healing your body. It was not used as a entertainment. It was not used as something to drink and get drunk. It was something that you would drink to heal yourself, something that you would put specific amount of herbs for a specific amount of time into this specific liquid, which was made by specific people from specific trees and fruits. So it was all done with intention. And I know till this day there are these monasteries where monks make wine and they do chanting while they make the wine. So I would say that alcohol has been completely misused and twisted. And the origin, and like now we see this alcohol, alcohol. It's like there's this, like, I think Egyptian word which means that it draws away your soul, and things like that. But I don't know, because I personally, if I look at alcohol, I don't see it now as a bad thing. I see it as a medicine, and if you know how to use it, um, it can be utilized in good ways. But yeah, back then it was completely abusive the way that we treated alcohol. And I almost I came to a point where I completely lost sense of myself, my body. I didn't know where am I and where is the world, and I lost my conscious as well, where I would have blackouts, like the drinking was so much that my body couldn't recover to because the toxins that are running through your blood have to be detoxified. Your body has to detoxify, and if you drink certain amount, your body cannot detoxify, your liver cannot detoxify, and then your brain shuts down. And I had these moments, and it came to a point where I almost lost my life. And so it's very dangerous. It's not something to play around, and especially as a teenager, your brain is not developed. So you're playing with your brain, your memory, your life, right? It's not a small thing. So yeah, I'm glad that I dropped it when I went to the US. There anyway, 21 was the age to drink, so I couldn't drink. And I was heavily into the gym when I arrived at the US. The gym was kind of my way to get my energy out. And and I was also in the beginning very obsessed about the body, so I wanted to look really good. And so yeah, I'm glad that I then itself already, like, I had maybe 3 years of 3 years of drinking, and I would only drink on the weekend, and most of the time only on Saturday. But I had friends who would drink like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of them wouldn't come to school on Monday or come late, and or come drunk, like, or hangover. So yeah, the it's crazy.
There is also this thing because maybe people, everybody knows that it is not good for your health, or it can lead to self-destruction as well. But when a teenager is going through so much of issues in his own life because he's not able to make connection with his family, with his school, with his, the surrounding, so they are questioning. I think that is also the point where many people are questioning their life, what is happening. It's also the stage where people are also trying to think about marriage or relationship. And then when you see that nothing is working out, it's very clear that divorce rates are so high. Everybody is just getting married, and then there is not much connection that you see within your own parents or your own family life, and then you see outside in your society as well. So it is a lot for the teenager also to, you know, have his head around. And that's why I think that's why all the teenagers are going into that, because there is no place where they can express or where they can learn from it, or how they can what is the new path for them, they don't know. So that gives them certain kind of peace to just get out of that zone right now. That's why the alcohol, people just they don't want to leave that, because it feels like this is the medium where they can just for a moment let it all go and feel. I don't know how you feel after that, but it feels like it just takes all the issues of your surroundings away for a moment, temporarily, and give you temporarily that solace.
It gives you power. It makes you feel like you have power. Power which is not built from within, but power which is induced by drink. And it's power that comes from numbing your mind, because only when you drink, then suddenly you have self-esteem, suddenly you have courage to speak to girls or dance. Many people cannot dance without alcohol. So that's kind of it gives you artificial courage, and it gives you artificial self-esteem. And once you're back to normal, then you realize, oh, I did this? That's crazy. I can't believe I did this. Because when you were drunk, what your mind, your logical mind was kept aside, which can be a good thing. If you could use alcohol in a way to show someone how to keep their mind aside, their logical mind aside, that could be a therapy in itself. I believe that everything in on this planet that is natural can be used for good with the right intention. And I believe that everything can be used to harm with the wrong intention. Even water, if you drink too much, it will poison you. I you can die. So that's what I say. The poison lies in the quantity. And so that's why I say if you want to drink, it should be done in a ceremonial way, in a way where you drink for your growth and you drink for your consciousness and you drink to ascend and not to numb, not to distract, which is what every teenager does. I have not met any teenager who was drinking to understand something about themselves to a deeper. But yeah, I like to bring this up because there is judgment about alcohol, and I believe that it is us who make alcohol into something that is negative. I don't think alcohol in itself is negative because it's natural, and it happens in nature, and even animals consume alcohol, and of course not in large amounts because they are in touch with their bodies and they know their bodies and they know when to stop. Only humans with their powerful mind can have such a strong will that the will overrides the mind who can make decisions that are appropriate, um, and the intuition also that guides us in all of that. So yeah, the will, this self will, is can be very dangerous. It can work against us.
Yeah, only thing is that people are just trying so hard to make connections, and these are just the modes where you can go out and make connections. So they fall prey to this products, in that's why. And also related to relationships, as you mentioned about your family as well, that they were not happy. They was constantly struggling with their own marriage. And here, at least, there is not the force to get marriage. What I've observed is there is not much pressure as we observe in India that you have to get married, that you have to get married. But here it is like there is an indirect force still for people to get married or at least have a family. Because if you're not able to do it, then you are not you know then you are not doing something correct. You are then still again the black sheep or something like that, because then people, what they do, instead of using that mode of arranged marriage, they force themselves or they manipulate ideas now to be with someone. And even if they feel certain kind of attraction, then that also comes out of loneliness, because of loneliness, because they are not able to feel that connection. They are doing that out of that inner urge to be with someone and not being alone. And that's why people just want to be around with people, even if they don't feel from their inner heart to be, but they still want to drag it in certain way. So it's like, okay, arranged marriage is not there. So it's like, we don't do arranged marriage. But then there is this whole manipulation, tactics, everything that comes around just for the sake of what other people are doing as well. Because it is also now society is like society is training people to do it in a different way.
Mm. Yeah, it's a personal choice, and I would say every marriage is arranged. It can be arranged by your parents, it can be arranged by you, and it can be arranged by grace. And it's up to you to decide. And sometimes it's not up to you to decide because I did not decide to get married. I did not choose because I said I didn't want to get married and I thought I would never get married. But grace just had a stronger or a different idea, and it brought something to me that I could never have imagined. So that's why I say every marriage is arranged in one way or the other, and it's up to you. It could be arranged out of your ego. to get the sense of approval or to get a sense of belonging, which if you don't feel that sense of belonging within yourself, sooner or later your partner will start to change. And when they change, you will resist the change. And if you resist their change, they will feel like you're keeping them in a cage or in a box, and they will want to leave you. But you cannot accept their change, because if they change, then who are you in this change? So you will also have to change. But if you're not willing to change, then it's tough. And that's why a lot of people get divorced, because one of them changes and the other one is not ready to change. That's what happened with my parents. And yeah, for me it was, like I said, the grace which just, it was like a wave. It's not that I wanted or chose, it's that it just happened. Like I there was no choice. And somebody might be listening to this and thinking, not having a choice, it's a bad thing. You should always choose. You should have the freedom to choose, right? Freedom of choice. And for me, if I would say, if I would have chosen with my mind, I might have chosen someone out of my trauma. I might have chosen someone out of the pattern that exists in my family, out of my ego. And now I feel I didn't make the choice, but something made the choice that is bigger than me. And that is that is of course only happened because I worked upon myself first. And that's the thing that a lot of people are missing, is that they're waiting for a partner who will fix them. They're waiting for a marriage who will make them feel a certain way, who will give them what they always wanted. If it's safety, if it's freedom, if it's money, if it's whatever, there's something there that the marriage is supposed to bring. But if you are not capable of feeling that even without the marriage, then you will always be dependent upon that person to make you feel that way. And if they don't make you feel that way, you'll be disappointed. And disappointment leads to wanting to leave or wanting to change that person, which is never a good thing. Trying to change someone else, that doesn't work.
That's true. It's yeah, you have to just be and let the other person also be. And if you connect from that, then that is something different.
There came a point when my body started shutting down. I had pain in my body from training too much. And one day I went to a bar, and in that bar, there was a man standing there, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you have pain in your shoulder?" And I said, "Yeah, how do you know?"
The path you seek is not found in speed, but in stillness.
I asked him, "What should I do about my shoulder?" Like, I thought you will do something for me. And he said, I cannot heal you. You can only heal yourself. So he said, "Okay, stop going to the gym every day. Go only 2 or 3 times a week, and on the other days, do yoga." And I said, "Yoga? No, I don't want any yoga. Yoga is something for women. I don't need this." 2 years later, I went to his ashram and lived there for 9 months, because there came a point when I just wanted to know, is this really true? I can only thank Sadhguru for coming into my life, and without him, I don't know where I would be.